I'm with JP and Elena Danaan at a conference in France in Valence, and it is July 10, and we are going to be discussing some of JP's missions and what Elena has learned from the Galactic Federation and the Cedars about some of the things that JP has encountered during his missions. So I want to welcome JP and Elena to Exopolitics today.
Thank you, Michael, for having us.
Thank you, Doc.
Well, let's begin with the Atlantic space arc, because that is something that you've been on 6 missions that you recall to the Atlantic space arc. And one of the more recent missions you described both going into the space arc with the team and extracting a crystal jewel from somewhere and that was taken away and was used to activate technologies and arcs elsewhere around the planet, and then it was returned, and the Nordic extraterrestrials played a critical role in that, and you were part of the mission to return that crystal jewel to the Atlantic space arc. So you want to kind of add to that, elaborate on anything about that mission?
You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here is Dr. Michael Salla.
It was a beautiful mission. The feelings I felt when we grabbed the jewel, it was like an emotional, you felt what the arc felt. It's connected with the arc, the jewel. So when you hold it, you feel a sensation of sadness and happiness. It's a mixture of feelings that you feel. Maybe feelings that we never experimented before. I'm sure other ETs have different types of feelings that we haven't experimented before or felt before. So it's a mixture of feelings it's a mixture of sadness, happiness, and some other feelings that I never felt before that just makes you cry and makes you happy. Sometimes it puts you in a position of, when you blink your eyes, you see like flashbacks of how the arc was. So I'm sure that there is different types of jewels all over the place, of these types of jewels that I'm sure holds the consciousness, or not the energy of the arc. And I think that's why they wanted to extract that particular jewel, to feel what the arc was really feeling.
And I remember you saying something also, that it was somehow attuned to the Earth's vibrations as well, and that you guys went through these feelings of, very joy but sadness.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you could feel the full extreme of emotions.
We could feel the different emotions of the arc. Yes, the frequency of how the arc feels, where it's at, and who's been in control of the arcs. So it's like a type of memory or a frequency that captures time and space and makes you feel like that. Makes you feel all those feelings of, I guess, past civilizations that have been through the arcs.
And do you recall anything, what can you recall about that jewel being taken to activate other technologies or other arcs? What do you recall about that?
We just picked up the jewel, and then from there on, I don't know what they did with the jewel.
Okay. So you were just guessing, speculating that they used it to activate other technologies, but you weren't briefed, you don't know for sure.
They said something about something about different technologies, but I'm not sure which type of technology they're using that for. I don't know if it's to activate other types of vehicles or arcs that were dormant, or if the other arcs, I don't know if they even have that type of jewel. But I know for sure the Atlantic arc had that jewel. So maybe they were taking that jewel out and probably putting it in the other arc just to see how the other arc reacts to it. Because remember, all the arcs are cut and paste, like if they were built somewhere in space, and they're like all the rooms are in the same spot of all other arcs. So when scientists or archaeologists, they do research on other arcs, they phone or they communicate with the other people that are on the other arcs. Hey, how about this room over here? Do you have this and this and that room? And we communicate back saying, yes, we have this and that in that room, and it's similar, yes. So we investigate more the particular arcs where they're all connected.
Great. Okay, so Elena, I mean, what do you know of the Atlantic space arc and this jewel that seems to be a critical part of its operations?
What I know about this Atlantic space arc, it was the base of the construction, the development of the capital city of Atla, the capital city of Atlantis. Atlantis had two capital cities, one that was older on the bigger island, that was the headquarters of Enki or Ea, when he used to live here for a period of time. And he gave territories, especially islands in the southwest, to the Alteans, who were part of the Cedars, the intergalactic confederation, to come and set a colony there. So they brought that spaceship, what we call the Ark, there. And what a lot of ETs are doing, this is very customary for them to do this, they will build their colony and their infrastructure around the arcs, because the arcs has all the survival material for them, you know, all the technology, the medical, everything, and the energy supply. So that's what they did with Atla. So this arc was the core center, and when the big Younger Dryas event occurred and the whole Atlantic was the sea rising and Atlantis was destroyed, of course, and all the islands, the ark sank, went deep down. All the infrastructures were destroyed that were built afterwards, but the ark sank and stayed there. The jewel, I suppose JP is talking about, well, 100% I'm sure, in fact, it's not supposition. It's the core consciousness of the ship. So these ships are half organic, and they have a consciousness which could be interpreted as artificial intelligence, such as in the ships of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. The scout ships I've been in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, they have artificial intelligence, meaning a super developed computer program that is able to think for itself. That's not the case with the Cedars. It's not because they are 20,000 years in advance upon the Federation. They embed real consciousness, plasmic consciousness, into technology, because it's way, way, way more advanced. So these real consciousness, they are beings. They are out of time. They don't have the same notion of time as us. They will be embedded, they will accept to be embedded in a ship, and the ship will become their body for a while. So the way to contain consciousness in crystals, it's the best way. Consciousness can be put into crystals. You know, I can mention the crystal skulls that can hold for a while, receive for a while human consciousness. It's the same for some type of crystals in space, in a spaceship. So I suppose that what JP is mentioning is that it was the consciousness of the ship, and removing this consciousness from the ship means you cannot work the technology anymore. The ship is dead. No matter how you try, no matter if you have the right DNA, it won't switch on. So it's a way of protecting the technology that is hidden in the ark, to take the core consciousness away, so then you cannot use the ark. Where it has been taken, I do not have this information either. Probably safe in a safe place.
So for them to remove that crystal jewel containing the consciousness or the organic consciousness of the ark and taking it away for a limited period of time, to, well, what would they use that for? I mean, JP mentioned activating other technologies. Do you have anything that comes to mind in terms of the practical use of this kind of organic consciousness stored in the crystal that could be used for other things other than animating a ship?
We have two options here. Either this was taken in safer place by the Intergalactic Confederation, which would make sense to me, or either this was used by not so friendly intentions to animate other technologies. Maybe some bad intentioned people have in their hands exotic technology of the same kind, and they need a consciousness to inhabit this technology to make it work. Maybe they could try, but I'm quite negative about the results, because these are organic beings, consciousness. You need them to agree to that. You know, when we embed a consciousness into a ship, if it is an organic being, the being needs to agree and be okay with that. If the being is not okay with that, nothing will work either. So, you know, I don't know more.
Mm-hmm. Well, what comes to mind is David Adair's experience with this engine at Area 51 back in 1971, and he says when he interacted with this engine from a larger extraterrestrial spacecraft, the consciousness, he communicated with the consciousness, and then it transferred into him, and he says that it used him as a lifeboat. So I assume that these organic consciousness, and he called his pithalum, that this kind of consciousness can be transferred either into a crystal or even into a human body temporarily.
Yes. If it is transferred into a human body temporarily, the human body needs to have the right DNA matching the frequency of that being. Mm-hmm. So as it is from the Intergalactic Confederation, the Cedars group, he needs to have some percent of this DNA, of a certain type of DNA, you know.
Okay, so David Adair had the right DNA for this consciousness to transfer into him. Great. So on the return of that crystal jewel, JP, you said that the Nordics were very much that they had possession of that crystal jewel, and that they returned it, and that you were part of a team of 4 soldiers and a team of 4 Nordics that returned the jewel, the Atlantic Space Ark jewel, to where it was originally taken. And again, you went through the emotions, and you described the Nordics also getting teary-eyed and also going through the same emotion. So anything you want to add to that, the return of the jewel?
When we saw the Nordics having emotions, you know, they're like Vulcans. They don't have as much emotions. So when you see them having emotions, you know it's something big, you know it's something powerful. Because I think they control the emotions just like the Vulcans in Star Trek. It's kind of cool how when you see Star Trek, it's like cut and paste of what's happening in the real world. So we felt the same feeling the crystal. The crystal actually glowed brighter, like if it was happy to be back. And it was glowing that purplish fluorescent light, beautiful, beautiful purplish with the lightning stripes inside of it. It was glowing and it made you feel so, it felt a more beautiful feeling when it was coming back to the ship. And like Elena was saying, the ship was activating as well certain parts when the crystal was coming back. So when we put it back in place, everything activated in the ship, and that's when the Nordics started going to different parts of the ship and activating the ship as well. So we just left it as that, and we left the Nordic in charge of the space arcs, because I said this before, like if you leave a cell phone in the middle of the Amazon with these indigenous people, they won't know how to play with a cell phone, not unless somebody shows them how. I think it's the same thing. The Nordics, they know more knowledge of technology than our military does, but we're learning as much as they are, but they have more knowledge in technology, which you have to be frank with that. And we left them with the arc, and they're activating the arc. They were activating the arc in different ways that we didn't know how. So it was quite amazing seeing that. And I think it's like that. I think the jewel could be like the heart or the brain of the arc. Us human beings, we could do heart transplant. Move a heart to another person, and the other person can live with the other person's heart. So I think the jewel has that capability of activating other stuff as well, or other arcs, because it's like a pineal gland of the ship, or the main consciousness of the ship, that could be like a heart, like when we do human transplant. You can move it to another body, and the other body activates and lives again because it has another heart. But knowing that the heart also has 40,000 neurons also, that can also connect with the brain and share that same knowledge of where it was before. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
So, Elena,
Yeah.
do you want to elaborate on?
May I comment?
Please.
So, JP, so the jewel that was taken from the arc, was it brought to another arc?
I think they were bringing it to other places to activate.
Okay, so that changes what I was thinking. So they were, I think the people, these Nordics, as you described them, they were Altians. It explains the fact that they were emotional, because they were the original race who built Atla, who were linked to this arc. And there are, of course, other arcs, as you describe, in the Atlantic or wherever else. And they use this consciousness to temporarily activate other arcs. So they weren't taking this jewel to another place to be safe, or it didn't fall in wrong hands at all to try to activate some technology, as I thought at first, as I said earlier. So yeah, so it's all good. It's all good. So these Nordics are the original part of the original Atlanteans, and so yeah, I want to comment that.
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's good to just clarify, because you've said that the Seeders are 24 civilizations from other galaxies, but then they have seeding projects all over our galaxy, and Altea was one of the Seeder groups, but that also work with other extraterrestrial groups, and so this group that gained possession, they could have been maybe an Altean colony in, say, the Pleiades or something like that. Yeah. So they could have identified themselves as Pleiadians.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And that, I think that's important, that the Seeders are working with extraterrestrial civilizations from our galaxy. So there's 24 Seeder races, and each of those races might be working with, what, a dozen or maybe 50 or whatever civilizations in our entire galaxy.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's important. So JP, you described the Nordics taking control of the space arcs, and you also mentioned how the space arc was relocated physically from somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle region more towards the mid-Atlantic. And as I recall, you explained at the time that this was because the Nordics felt that the US influence over the space arc was becoming a problem, and they wanted to make it more of an international cooperative venture to move it into the towards the mid-Atlantic, so that it would be more of an international effort as opposed to just a US dominated effort. So yeah, you want to describe that, and of course the Nordics' role in doing that?
Well, it wasn't necessarily like a problem. I think it was the choice of the US to also let that happen, to share information, because there's other countries that have different arcs, and they also have information with their scientists and their archaeologists and their people. So I think it was a mutual agreement with the Nordics and the US to the arc to move more into the middle of the Atlantic. And I'm sure on the way over here, Russia, bringing their armada, they probably passed through there and got information, and they're going to go back to the same route through the Atlantic and also grab more information. I'm sure all that is happening while we speak. And I think it was a mutual agreement. It wasn't them trying to take away from the United States. It was a mutual agreement with the Nordics to bring it more to the middle, to communicate with all the other countries. Because there's some also I think India was involved too. Something about Vimanas, activating Vimanas. They found a couple of Vimanas in the Indian, because the Indian Empire was really big back in the days, and it covered Afghanistan and covered Iraq and all that. So I'm sure there was Vimanas that were in the bottom part of the sand that still needed to be activated. You guys know what Vimanas are?
Yeah.
And also them communicating also with the giants of Kandahar and, I don't know, other civilizations in the inner earth. So yeah, they decided to move it more into the middle, and I'm sure closer to the Atlantis. I guess the ships activate better when they're in their original spot and communicate better with the frequency of Earth and the frequency of other races by interacting with it.
So, Elena, do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I agree with JP on the fact that there is an international coalition which is part of the Earth Alliance, working with the Seeders, the Intergalactic Confederation. The Nordics that you describe are part of them. And I think these ships that we're seeing, as military ships from Russia, that's it, coming to on the path of these arcs, are part of an exchange plan for maybe technology, because the Earth Alliance is aware of everything about these arcs and the technology. So I would agree that this is not negative at all to see all these warships in these areas. And I like the fact that you have, you know, someone who can trace these the routes of these ships, and it matches the location of the arcs that JP describes. So I think it's a positive thing.
Good confirmation.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. You're referring to Ruzo Zanrico.
Yes.
That's a pseudonym. He's someone who's working for a military contractor, so he can't reveal his identity, but he's been tracking ship movements in the approximate area where JP identified the arc, and he has found ships behaving in a very strange way, just stopping, and in an area where there shouldn't be any reason for ships to just be stationary. And he's talking large, a number of large ships. So that's corroborating what JP is saying, that the space arc is somewhere in a particular area of the Atlantic, and there's a lot of naval activity around it. I want to move on to another mission that you did, and that was the concerning Nordic assimilation, where you were part of a group of 4 soldiers, and you were met by 4 extraterrestrials that had arrived, and you described 4 of them as kind of each looking differently, but looking like extraterrestrials, and speaking in a way similar to extraterrestrials. And then you took them to a facility on this large military base, and they went into that facility, and they came out with completely, their hair was cut short, they had normal clothes, and they spoke differently, and they had passports and identity papers. So you want to just elaborate on that mission?
In that mission, I was surprised when I saw the Nordics, right? And we took them to this facility, and when they came out, all changed up right there, then and now. I could see that they can be among us. They can be disguised to be walking anywhere, and they can be different in every place that you look. You know, we could be looking at a Nordic right now somewhere in the event, and we won't know it, because their facial structure changes to our structure. The Nordics, they're more like square and more, you know, you could tell the structure of the face when you see them, that they're not from here. Their eyes are different. So when they came out looking different, we were like, dang, that's crazy. Like, wow, I can't believe that. And I'm sure it's not just the Nordics. There's other ET races that are probably walking among us, and they learn the language. They're so fast in learning the language, and the accent, they pick it up like really fast. Remember, they activate more part of the brain that we activate, so they can capture. They're like sponges. They can capture it like really fast. Well, we do 20% of our brain,
Yeah, not even.
or something like that. They probably use like 80. They know how to use 80% of their brain. So they capture accent easily. They capture movements, gesture of what race they choose, and it's amazing. It's amazing when you see that. And even I think they put like a little bit of, you know, fillers or Botox or something to make them look like more like us. And they're like regular people. They come out like regular people, talking like us, you know, outgoing. They're more communicative type of people. They like to connect people with other people. That's what type person they are. So outgoing person. They like to ask questions. They like to talk to you. They like to learn about different types of technology. They pick up on computer stuff really fast. They pick up on different types of technology really fast. They know how to do coding. They're really good with numbers. Music, they're really good with music, because music is considered a language as well, so they pick it up. So people use the same part of the brain for music, for language. So I guess they know how to do music as well. It's amazing. It's amazing when you see that. And for me, it was like, wow, we do have to be, vigilant. Because if they could do that, the black hats can do that as well. So we're like, wow, we don't know who's walking among us. So I went to New York and I went to Times Square, and I was looking at so many people walking around, and I thought to myself, wow, how many ETs are walking around right now among us in Times Square? You see so many faces, so many different type of people in New York or in a populated area that you never know who's around and who can approach you.
You mentioned identity papers as well.
Yeah, they have all that. Identity paper, they come out with passports, they come out with IDs. It's like everything is done there in that particular building. I guess they do it so fast. Like, it was fast the way they did it. It kind of like, wow. They go by the departments really fast. And they come out ready to go. So
this is like an official assimilation program, just like that was kind of depicted in the Men in Black movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Elena, what do you know about this? I mean, does the Galactic Federation involved in something like this? Or are there other groups doing this?
Yes, that's the Galactic Federation of Worlds. That's the Earth Alliance program of assimilation of Galactic Federation of Worlds personnel. These ETs that you described, I was listening to you and I'm thinking, JP is describing exactly Thorheim's human race. Physical characteristics, the character, the personality. You described totally my friend Siladion, who is a pilot in the Galactic Federation of Worlds and who has long hair, high cheekbones, and he has this personality of always being curious and sociable and interested. And it's them, the Ahil. And the eyes are different, as you described. They are wider and they have kind of blue metallic light in them. And there's this program of revamping. They do that with not all the personnel of the Federation to enter the Earth Alliance work, as infiltrated agent in society. Because Thorheim really disclosed and confirmed recently that there is a program of infiltration that is very big, very big. So they don't do that with all the personnel, because some personnel, such as the Alpha Centaurians, don't need revamping. They look like humans, and you can't tell the difference. But some human races, such as indeed the Ahil Pleiadians, they need revamping, because you see that they have high cheekbones, very square bone structure, and you can tell they're different. So it all matches, yes.
I first came across this when reading Howard Menger's contact stories from the 1950s, and he described how he helped these extraterrestrials assimilate, that they would come in, long hair, and he would cut the hair. He would help them learn the American colloquialisms so they could fit in, that he would get identity papers, driver's licenses and all of that for them. He would help them. So, but of course that was all done informally. That was just, and that was in the 1950s. Since that time, I mean, the government, the US government, has developed an official program to kind of supplement or take over that kind of spontaneous ad hoc assimilation, which is interesting.
I also want people to understand that it's not just males. It's males and females doing these. I had somebody asking me, oh, you only talk about males. But when I talk Nordics, I'm talking about male and female that are going through these processes and in these types of missions.
I want to comment also on the languages. They have a way of learning languages by downloading the language in some parts of their brain. That's why they're so fast.
So you, in 2018, you described an incident where you were living in Orlando and a flying saucer landed and a Nordic came out with crew cut hair. His hair was crew cut. He was wearing a distinctive Air Force uniform. Jumpsuit, but it was a patch. You said it was a patch that was unique to them. So it seemed that within the US Air Force that there was a elite squadron or group that were these assimilated Nordics that were working with the Air Force, and they kind of assimilated, totally haircut, but they had their own patch so that they could be identified from other Air Force squadrons. Did you remember that? You want to describe that?
Yeah. When he wanted me to go into the ship, and I decided not to. I wish I would have gone to go to the ship and explore it, but I just didn't feel right because I knew there was somebody looking at me. There was somebody making sure, I didn't want nobody to get hurt. So I was being followed, so I did not want to do that. But yeah, he had a crew cut. He looked like a regular military. He was a little bit more pale, but his eyes were really bright blue in like a greenish sea blue. And he was inviting me into the ship, and I decided not to go. And I felt so bad because I knew it would have been a good experience. But sometimes when you see this in front of your face, and you see a ship landing in front of you, you're in shock. You become so shocked that you can't know how to act, to feel, so the human feelings get in the way. I didn't know in that time how to separate my feelings and all that. But I had another incident when they invited me inside a ship to drink that blue liquid, and I went right away. I took that chance and I did it.
That was a later mission.
A later mission. Okay. So, and I actually, I took a picture of that ship when it was taking off, and you could see the reflection of the trees when the ship was heading out. So the bottom part of the ship was like the same green of the trees and all that.
Yeah, and we released those photos. You took several photos, and we released them on Exopolitics.
We released those photos
back in the day, so people can still go and watch the little video I made of the photos. So what do you know, Elena, of Nordics or Galactic Federation personnel that are working with, say, different branches of the military and have their own little squadrons?
Yeah, so that will be, again, the Earth Alliance. That will be the programs started in the early 1950s, or, when William Tompkins testifies of work with the Federation, working on technology exchange. So that at that moment, the Earth Alliance started to be created. That was the start of the Earth Alliance, the beginning, when the Galactic Federation helped humans of Earth to build their own defense system, defense fleet against the invaders. So that would be at that moment. And these programs have been going on and have developed. And there are personnel of the Galactic Federation of Worlds sent to Earth on some particular missions or jobs. Can be many years job in some organizations. They're working with the US Navy. That's for sure, since the beginning. And I know that other parts of the American military, such as the US Air Force, has joined the Earth Alliance. But what Thoran told me once about the Air Force, US Air Force, is that it's very parted. There are black programs as well in the US Air Force, but there are also cells. There is actually one cell that is working with the Alliance. So sometimes you're talking about the Air Force, but you don't know which camp you are talking about, you know. So what JP describes, it's absolutely totally the work of the Earth Alliance, the corporation.
Right. You've described being on at least 4 missions to underground ant kingdoms where you've seen the ant people, and your first mission you described seeing a sarcophagus with a giant inside that was being protected and kind of worshipped by the ant people, and that he was a king, right? So, but he was in some kind of stasis and you didn't know who the name was. You actually, part of your mission was to find out who that was. Later on, I was with Elena, and we got information from the Galactic Federation that this was Ningishazira, a Sumerian, an Anunnaki scientist that had stayed behind for a time when the Cedars would return, when Ea would return, and that he would awaken and share the knowledge. The ancient knowledge, and he was the kind of sacred protector of trees and plants. He was an alchemist, a master alchemist. Now, you described going, one of your missions described going to an underground ant kingdom where there was a king, and you met the king, and he talked to you, and they were very interested in the arcs. And then in your kind of last mission, you described when you went there, that the ant king had died, and the ant people had left, and all that were left in that area were humans, and the ant people had gone to another realm with the king who had awakened, or the giant who had awakened. So you want to elaborate on that?
When we went and started going to the other realm, it was a big walkthrough that you can go to, that I was feeling kind of dizzy and not sick, but like I was not feeling right to go. And I think I was not ready to do that particular mission, but they wanted me to do it. It's similar to the feeling I felt when I was just overwhelmed of what I was seeing. My emotions were getting involved in the situation. So I did not really want to go through it because I didn't know what I was going to feel or what was going to happen to me. See, my body is going through a lot of changes, health-wise. So me personally, I didn't want to put more pressure on my body to go through these experiences and to go through these different realms, if you want to call it that, because when you go through these different realms, everything moves different. Like you see, similar when the Chinese were behind the Indians, the Mexican Indians, you could see like time move differently. So right there,
and there, just for people who don't know, you're referring to one of the earliest Adanic space arc missions where there was a group of Aztec Indians that were singing and chanting a Kuriamate, walking into the ark, and the Chinese soldiers that were there tried to follow them, but they kind of like got stuck in molasses because there was a temporal effect, and you can only get through that by raising your frequency like the Aztec Indian.
So I was feeling this temporal effect there in that different realm, and I did not want to go through that because of my health issues that I'm beginning to have. So I decided not to do it. So they gave me the drinks, they gave me everything to prepare my body for the trip, and I decided not to do it. I decided to go back, take me back, and they were okay with that. They were okay. So next time you come, you'll be ready, right? It's like, yes, I'll be ready. I'll be ready physically and mentally ready to do these types of missions.
Okay, so before we kind of like address the awakening of the giant and the role he had in replacing the ant king who had died, I just wanted to get Elena's feedback on the kind of the toll on the human body when you're doing these kinds of missions. Because because people think, well, JP, well, you're doing incredible missions, I wish I could be part of that, and it would be so fantastic, you must be in top health, but it's actually the opposite. You want to explain?
Yes. People notice I've lost weight, you know. It's very straining on the body. I'm not going in the underground, in the inner earth, but I'm going to space as well, like you, JP, and it's very straining on the body. It's physical, and it's also emotional and nervous, because you change environment. You are either teleported, as I'm teleported. Teleportation is straining on the body. You don't feel really well afterwards. You need to recover, because I'm not really used yet to it, even if I'm teleported regularly. Changing also frequency. You know, when you go to inner earth, you go into a different frequency. And this also is very difficult on the body. You can feel dizzy, you can feel weird and very tired afterwards. You need to recover. You change, when you go to space, you change electromagnetic field. You know, these bodies we occupy are made in Earth, made on Earth. We have the minerals of the Earth, the fluids of the Earth, the water of the Earth, everything that composes this body is fabricated on Earth. So we are in tune with this planet. The heartbeat beats in resonance with the Schumann resonance. When you get out of the magnetic field of the Earth, the heart panics, because there's no more resonance matching. So you're on your own, and the body just is stressed, goes into a shock, a stress. What magnetic field should I tune in? So of course, magnetic field of the ship, if you are in an ET ship. But it's straining. At one point, I've developed heart problems that were fixed by them, but it's very straining. So not everyone can do it, you know. JP is a strong military man with military training. I'm not. So it takes a physical toll. Yes, it's very hard.
And this training helped me out a lot, you know, in the military. Maybe that's why they decided to put me in the military, to do these types of training, because I wasn't exercising every day in the beginning when I was doing these missions. I wasn't eating right. So going through the military and going basic training, I guess, trained my body to eat right, to work out every day, because it's part of our daily life. Military life is working out every day. I wasn't doing that, but with being in the military, I was doing that. So I was physically and mentally, my body was physically good to withstand these strains of the missions. So I kind of understand where she's coming from. You know, it's quite tough on your body, on your eyes.
Yeah.
You can become blind depending if you don't wear the shields, right?
Yes.
Your bone density goes down. You lose muscle. You lose spinal fluid.
Yes.
You start developing like arthritis. And there's a lot of people in the military that, if you do the studies, when they get out, they all of a sudden they get arthritis. Their back starts going bad. You know, they start thinking in a crazy way, and they stop. They get Alzheimer's, or they get Parkinson's disease, because military people, they go through a lot of shit in their missions. And you know, a lot of people, I'm happy that a lot more people are starting talking like that. General, he starts saying, yeah, we got beings walking among us. You know, we got
That's Admiral Tim Gallaudet.
Yes.
About.
We got David Brush that recently came out too, last year. So, and little by little, like you said, Doc, this is coming out little by little, and a lot of people are more knowing about these types of missions or these types of situations that the military or civilians are going through.
I'd like to comment on the diet as well. I was asked to change diets to be more able to withstand higher densities and higher electromagnetic fields, that I wouldn't get sick and I would be more energetic and dynamics once I'm there, and recovering better once I'm back. And also about the eyes, that's right. Most of these ships are very bright inside, so you have a shock, and it's always a time to adjust. And when you finally adjust to the luminosity, it's hard because it's straining on the eyes. Yeah, I can confirm.
So now I want to come back to your fourth mission, or the last mission, to the ant kingdom. You're told by the ant people that you eventually find that the king has died, the ant king has died, that you had met on a previous mission. You're upset about that, and that the giant has awakened and has moved into a new realm, and the ant people followed the giant into the new realm. Do you want to explain what happened?
Quantum physics. When there's two particles in two places at once, is similar to these different realms. When you visit these realms, you still leave like a part of yourself back in the other realm. It's like when you look yourself at the mirror. It's an analogy. When you look yourself in the mirror, you see yourself, right? But you see yourself in a different space, different realm. So it feels kind of weird when you try to enter into this different realm. See, I did not go completely. Remember, I came back out because I didn't want to experience that, because that takes a lot of toll on your body, and I'm sure they wanted me to go through it to bring back information for the military. I decided not to. Maybe later on I will go through this mission not being in the military and do a nice update, because the way I felt was always welcome to be there.
But you maybe want to just explain how you were told by the ant people that their king had died and that the giant had awakened and had taken the ant people to a new realm?
They were telling me, like, a telepathic way, that the ant king died. And it was a sad situation for me, because I personally talked to him. I remember talking to this king. And when they told me the news that he passed on, I felt like they were telling me that he's not no more with us in this realm, but he's still alive somewhere else. So maybe Elena can elaborate more with consciousness of how that might work when you pass on and you go to another place in time. And the way they were telling me, the ant people, that the other king was awakened and that he was in charge, that he was working already on doing different things in the other realm. And I was excited in the beginning when they told me that, because I really wanted to go and see who this other guy was, who this king was. And he has awoken. And that was really amazing to hear that, that first sarcophagus I saw, that king awoken.
Mm-hmm.
I felt happy. I felt amazed. And I had a sensation that he was calling me to talk to me. You could feel it. You could feel that. I don't know. It's like a feeling that they communicate with you, but you can't really work out the words, but you know they're trying to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm.
By the way you feel their frequency. But yeah, I wish I would have gone in, Doc, but I did not go in and met that king. The king that have awoken in that realm. But I felt his presence. I did feel his presence. You could feel that he's awake. It was a same feeling that I felt when I got close to the sarcophagus. That same feeling, the same heart vibration that you could feel. So you knew that he was awake and he was alive, and walking around in that particular realm.
So what do you say to all of that, Elena?
What I think JP describes is a shift in a higher frequency. The inner earth people live on several different layers of frequencies. As you go towards the center of the planet, the frequency becomes higher. So when there's a danger, they can just go deeper into this higher frequency. And they can either go there, shift physically. We know there are frequency gates you can pass through, or either they can shift their consciousness to other bodies there. So they would seem to die in the first place and transfer their consciousness and awaken in another place. They can do that as well. And regarding the giant, his soul, his being is an Anunnaki, Anach. So he may as well have transferred into a higher density with the others, or he may as well, because the world is not ready yet, have gone back to the Nibiru ship. We can say that's the possibilities.
Yeah. So what do you think? I know we had that incredible discussion and discovery when we were driving together in Tennessee, and we found, holy cow, this is Ningish Zeta. You want to maybe explain that?
Okay, let's rewind this little episode. Yes, JP was telling his first encounter with this sleeping giant and this tree dripping liquid that was like a fountain of youth, and that was an amazing story. And we were driving the car, and I said, I'm going to ask Thorhan if he knows about this giant, and he said yes, it's an Anach, or Anunnaki Anach soul that was part of one of the 7 scientists of Enki scientists, which now we know under the name the 7 Apkallu, Sumerian name, the Apkallu. Anyways, and he says yes, his name was, and he says something I had so much difficulty to transcribe it. I told you, he says something like Ningishta, Ningishza, Ningishza, something like this. Ningishziza. So Ningishzida, maybe. This was difficult. And we went back. I went back to the hotel, and I made some research on internet, and you did as well on your site. And we just contact each other. Oh my goodness! We found out Ningishzida, one of the 7 Apkallu, who is the Lord of the Good Tree. Ningishzida means the Lord of the Good Tree. Which tree? The tree of life and of the underground waters. Mm-hmm. And he is also Quetzalcoatl and Jehuti, or Thoth. That was a wow moment we'll never forget.
Ce rituel de 7 secondes élimine les constipations pour de bon. Contrairement à ce qu'on pense, Vous pouvez aller à la selle tous les...
Yes, that was really quite amazing. And JP, you also described, not that you did a mission, but you were given information that another one of these giants had been found. I believe it was in the city, or the remains of the ancient city of Nippur, and we got information that this was actually another Anunnaki scientist, who, June or Aruna, who was actually the chief Anunnaki engineer of the space fleet. And
Wow.
So you want to maybe just explain that information, how you got that information that another sleeping giant had been found in this ancient area of Iraq called Nippur.
The way I got that information is because when we were visiting the realm of the ant people, I noticed that every giant has their own army, and they have their own soldiers protecting that realm, protecting that place. So when I heard about that sleeping giant over there, and also that they have a sleeping army that awakens when it's disturbed. If somebody disturbs the realm where the sleeping giant is, the army will awaken. What army? I don't know what type of species or underground civilization is this, but as we know, there's different types of inner civilizations. We got the ant people, we got human beings that look like us, and around the world, different types of inner earth people that look different and that look like us. They look a mixture of Indian and Oriental. They look more pale than us, and there's different types of inner earth civilization protecting these different realms and all that. And also over there in Ukraine, I think that's why I guess the Russians, they still have that area where the sand domes, what do you call that place? The
Oleksy Sand.
Oleksy Sand. They still in charge of that. So that's how I got the information, because of the armies and because of the civilization that protects the realm. So over there, they also have a sleeping army. If you read the story of that particular sleeping giant over there.
Makes sense.
Now, I remember talking to you about that, and you did a communication. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was with Thorhan or Prince Ea, and you said that Aruna, that scientist, because he was the chief engineer for the Anunnaki space fleet, he had knowledge about advanced space technologies that were way in excess of the secret space programs of the Solar Warden and even of the Nordics. So, do you want to recapitulate exactly what it was that you were told about Aruna and his vast knowledge of space technologies?
Yes, Aruna was the chief engineer of the fleet of Enlil. And he was the one who was in charge of get ships produced. You know, the Nibiru is a mothership. It's huge. It's nearly as big as the moon. And it has fleets inside. A lot of scout ships or fleets, war, combat. And the Aruna was in charge of producing these fleets, or repairing them, or getting them, fit. And he would also manage the can say the astroport, the port ship for the ships. In Nippur, in the area of Nippur, because Nippur was the headquarters of Enlil. And Aruna was his chief of fleets, I would say. I don't know how to translate this.
Chief engineer.
Chief engineer. And what is quite impressive is that when I got this information, we always do research when you get information. And I think it's you who found out that there was in India an Aruna who was chief charioteer,
Mm-hmm.
a god. Then Aruna, chief charioteer of the gods.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
So yeah. So there's an allusion there to this ancient mythical figure who was exactly playing this role.
Wow.
And what is very important is that Aruna switched sides.
Mm-hmm.
He went on Enki's side at one point, and he joined his followers.
Yes. Well, that kind of like a testament to, I guess, the character of the Anunnaki as a civilization, that there was this ability for leading figures. Because I think Ningishzida, as I recall, was he a son of Enlil or somehow closely associated, blood kin of Enlil?
He was his mentor. He was older than Ea. Ningishzida was older than Ea.
I got confused. Aruna. Yes, Aruna. Wasn't he a son of Enlil, or somehow
he was related to him?
It was related,
yes.
and that they could shift allegiances. So there was this fluidity in Anunnaki society, which is very interesting.
Like humans, you know.
I think the animals are excited. You guys talking about this?
We hear the cicada.
Yes.
I don't know if the audience hears them.
Okay, so this is the last topic because we do want to keep it short. So your most recent mission happened on July 4 of this year, 2024, and you described going to a facility, a medical facility on a military base, and you were met by 3 other soldiers, and that first they didn't know you. And they thought, well, who is this guy? Who's this stranger? And they were very dismissive of you, saying, how come this guy's with us? And he shouldn't be here. We're trained to do these kinds of missions. Apparently it was something to do with an upcoming mission to Saturn. And that then all 4 of you went into this medical facility, and there was a table, and you had to place your palm on it. So why don't you explain what happened?
So yeah, we got this update. This update is going to be number 35. When we put the hand on the table, right? Because I know they're going to hear the mission. They're going to hear the story.
But you can say it again, just for people that maybe
okay.
don't know it.
They took us into this facility, and they lined us up. One of the guys were like, who the heck are you? You didn't go with us on all the training. You didn't do none of this. So why you're here? So I guess they did have a 4th guy, but he did not make the cut, I guess. And they added me into their group. So they were sad that they lost that particular partner. And I took his place. I guess when he saw, I put my hand, they put you into this room. And it's a metal table. And I put my hand on the metal table. And then on the metal table, you can see numbers that come up. It tells you your oxygen level, the type of blood that you have, your DNA, and all that. And then on top of that, there's other numbers, medical numbers that I did not know. And on top of that, there was a color code. It was reading greenish yellow, fluorescent yellow. The other guys, they were reading like a bluish purple. So the guy that was cursing me out, saying that he didn't want me, he looked at my color. He's like, oh crap, look at his color, man. We never see that. That's freaking rare. So the color, they were explaining to me that the colors meant how far you have been. And the green meant that I've been out from the solar system. That's how far I've been. The bluish purple meant like as close as Jupiter and all that, but the green means way farther, to like a farther place. So when they saw that, they started respecting me a little bit more, treating me better and all that. And they're like, whoa, we can't believe we saw that color. That's really rare. And sorry, man, dude. I'm sorry. So they treat me in a different way. And they told me that when I came back, the guy that gives me the green light, he says that I probably been in this mission before. The reason is that color. So it was an amazing experience. Yeah.
So, Elena, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, well, when you leave the electromagnetic field of the Earth, you are going to adjust automatically to any new magnetic field that you encounter on your trajectory. When you are in an ET spaceship, this doesn't happen. You just tune into the magnetic field of the ship, and that's the trace you will find in your own personal magnetic field that can be retraced. Or there are traces of a different frequency, but that would be the frequency of the spaceship. But when you travel in human-made, Earth-made spaceships, you don't have the same electromagnetic field protection. So you are going to catch the electromagnetic field of the planets you pass by, you know, or the places you go in space. And it is all recorded in your own personal magnetic field. So you can find these magnetic signatures. So I'm convinced that's what JP's analysis the colors were showing.
Yeah. You can explain also Jean-Charles, what he told us. You can explain that of what he found also.
Yeah, we had a conversation with Jean-Charles Moyen, and he described having a similar experience where he placed his hand on some kind of metallic device, and that it would give a readout, and depending on the color, he said it was two colors, green and blue, and depending on the readout, that would tell a lot about your ability to be able to go out into space on missions.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, this mission, this is update number 35, and it'll probably should already be out by the time people are listening to this update. That mission was to Saturn, to the rings of Saturn, that you described that you were being prepared for a mission to Saturn, and that you don't remember that mission.
No, they were telling us in the briefing that we were going to meet up with some other ET race, and the ship was going to rendezvous and communicate with each other. But by the way, my handler, the guy that gives me the green light, he told me that, who knows, you probably already went on this mission and you're just getting briefed on what happened or what you did already. But in the briefing, it made it seem like we're going to go through the mission. But I don't know if I went through the mission already. The reason why I was showing already green in the table.
Pour faire changer son fils, il va lui faire croire qu'il a atterri en 1702.
Yeah, is this some kind of time paradox thing, or are we talking about the anti-telephone effect, where you go on missions because you've already been and you've returned? This is something that was Tony Rodriguez described that in his presentation, the anti-telephone effect, that the Dark Fleet would do that they would send out missions. They would first wait, they would use this anti-telephone effect, and so they would, before launching the mission, they would wait for themselves to return from that mission, and once they saw themselves returning, then it's like, okay, we'll go on that mission because it's safe. And if they didn't see themselves returning, then they'd scrub the mission because obviously there was some danger there that they would encounter. So I don't know, is this maybe an anti-telephone effect?
It could be anti-phone effect. It could be, but I don't have no recollection of it. Mm-hmm. No memory. And I know I have told you like 35 missions, but in between these 4 years, I don't know how many missions I probably did that maybe affected me in a certain way, and that's why the reason I'm not allowed to remember these certain missions. Remember, I'm still part of the military, so I'm still serving, and I love the United States of America, to give me the opportunity to serve. And I'm really proud of our military and what we're going through, you know, and there's some secrets that we still have to keep, and we still have to keep it for the security of the United States of America. And I'm not scared to say that because I am part of the greatest nation of the world, I believe. You know, of course, my wife, she's from Brazil, so I love Brazil too. And right now I'm in France, so France is beautiful, beautiful country, Elena. Europe is beautiful, but I do serve the United States of America, one of the best countries in the world, and more advanced in technology, I believe. So, yeah.
So there's a mission to Saturn, the rings of Saturn, or the Saturn that JP has done at some point that he can't recall now, but he was told, yeah, he was being tested for that mission, and then he finds out from his handler, who's a senior military officer, that that mission may have already been completed. So what do you say to that? I mean, about Saturn and Earth Alliance missions there?
Oh, well, Michael, people who follow my Star Nation news know what I'm going to talk about. And at the time, if I can't recall, either I told you JP is going to be called on a mission to Saturn. You remember? Like,
yes.
Soon, you will hear, he will tell you that I didn't tell you because I don't want to influence anything.
Yes.
I told you.
Exactly.
Yes, and I may have mentioned it in one of my Star Nation news because...
But you never said JP. You only told that to Doc.
I may have mentioned maybe in JP, we may hear JP telling us about a new mission on Saturn. Let's see, you know. Or I may have said it or not. I don't remember.
I try not to go. I only stay in my social media.
Yeah.
But I try not to go on different not to get influence.
Yes.
Information,
yeah.
You know. So
I think I told it to you only.
You did. You did tell me.
To you only. But what I told in my Star Nation news is that a few months ago, I got the information that the Earth Alliance was invited, a team of scientists. There were topographers, biologists, other type of, mainly topographers, that were brought by the Earth Alliance and military to protect them and to bring them there on Titan, a moon of Saturn. And they were received there. They were given quarters and facility to be brought to Saturn to study ancient floating cities. Because on Saturn there was a group, very ancient group called the Builders, who left cities, floating cities, anti-gravity cities. But that was hidden from everyone because you could never access Saturn because it was previously in the custody of Enlil and Marduk, bad Anunnakis. You couldn't approach. So recently, these bad Anunnakis have been expelled from our star system, and Enki, or Ea, came back in September 2021, gave back the keys. He said, okay, on behalf of the Anak Empire, I am giving back the custody of Saturn to the Earth Alliance, because Earth is the more advanced indigenous civilization in this system. And then Saturn was open to visit to the Earth Alliance. And they saw these cities. So the Anak, or the Anunnaki, let's call them for better understanding, they said, well, Enki's team, they said, well, we are going to help you and give you facilities on Titan and guide you to these cities. So there's a detachment of an Anunnaki group from the Nibiru, and Enki's personnel, who is helping and guiding the Earth Alliance scientists and the militaries that are protecting them to these different cities. So they go on these shuttles with these Anunnaki people and personnel, and they're brought to these cities. What is interesting is that these cities, I've seen them from far. I had a visit as well. They are like ruins, but in the upper atmosphere of Saturn, like big ruins of cities, but floating like this. And I asked this question, if they're that ancient, how does the mechanism, anti-gravity mechanism, still works? And I was told, there is there is no anti-gravity technology. It's the materials by themselves who have no mass, so they float. So it's totally safe. So the Earth Alliance scientists are studying these cities. So
the gravitational pull of Saturn will not affect?
No, will not affect.
So the structures that are around the rings of Saturn. I know there's a book out of some guy, he found structures.
It's called The Rings of Saturn.
The Rings of Saturn. So
I think the ring makers of Saturn.
The ring makers of Saturn. You think they're involved?
I haven't read that book, so I cannot pronounce an opinion. I haven't read it. But there are a lot of structures. The rings of Saturn, you could not access the inner ring. From the inner ring towards the surface of Saturn. It was forbidden because it was Anunnaki territory. So, but the rings were accessible to anyone who would come and maybe put a mining station there or for observation posts. But honestly, the Galactic Federation, they didn't want to get that close to the Anunnaki territory because they were troubled.
It could be dangerous, yeah.
They were troubled.
They told us it was a dangerous mission going there.
That's it, yeah.
But I guess it's because of the certain activation of certain ships that are over there that are involved with doing the rings of Saturn. So I think we're going over there to rendezvous with these particular technology that we were not sure how ancient they are. And it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it could be the same thing. Yeah.
So can that be evolved with the hexagon shape on top of Saturn?
I do not think so, because I think that is a question of winds and rotation that creates this geometrical shape. I think it's a natural phenomenon, to what I understand.
Well, that really was amazing information. I want to thank you both. I mean, that was incredible what you shared, and just kind of like unraveling the deeper implications of the missions JP is on. Now, I know we're all going to be appearing at the upcoming Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection from September 27 to 29 at Westminster, Colorado, just outside of Denver. So people have a chance to come and see us all there. So, Elena, I mean, you want to say anything about what you're going to do there?
Well, this is very appropriate because I'm going to talk about these consciousness technologies. That was my plan, to really explain how it works in details, practically, who these consciousnesses are, and how they agree to embody a ship as their body, and how does it work exactly in details, and also a more global view on what consciousness is, where do we come from, and what are we made of. So that's going to be interesting.
Wonderful, thank you. And JP, this will be your first public appearance, so you want to explain exactly what people can expect?
I'm not going to show my face, but my body is going to be there. So I'll probably have something covering my face. I'm not going to reveal my name yet. This might be later on, because it's just really hard for me to do this. And they left it, but there's other opportunities that might come. So I have to keep myself, protected.
Exactly.
Protected.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably be on stage with you. We'll do like a Q&A and of maybe an update that I'll probably get, and it'll probably be a new update, and we'll probably, do the update there, or we'll talk about past missions, and my body will physically be there. People will be seeing my body. Yeah. If push comes to shove, if something's happens, it'll probably be a video, a Zoom video. But I feel that I'm going to be there.
Okay. So in some way you'll be presenting and people will see something, or in the worst case scenario, it might have to be through Zoom if there's some contingency that we don't know.
Yes. You know, if there's a worst case scenario, I'll still be there, but through video. But most likely I'll be there in person with you, sitting down on stage with a beautiful helmet or
okay,
or
right.
you know, something that looks, I guess, yeah.
Maybe the helmet you have to wear when you're on Ganymede or something.
Yeah.
Something similar to that. So that's great. Well, that's cool. And I will be, as you said, on stage with you, helping with the Q&A and bringing up past missions. And I'll be doing my own presentation as well. And that'll be giving people an update on the latest developments with disclosure, what the official process is, what they can expect, because a lot is happening officially behind the scenes. So again, I want to thank you both, and you can for the GSIC conference you can just go to galacticspiritualinformers.com.
Yes.
And again, thank you both. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to seeing you both in Denver, Colorado in September.
Thank you, Michael.
Akuria mate.
Akuria mate.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.